the flag we all beating our chest. When it's peace, it's the same old game, the same old players, same old names. Right. My skin is my sin. My skin is my sin. My skin is my sin.
What was it spiritually that connected you with the nation?
I really think it was my grandmother, because she didn't want to go to church. Not that she wasn't religious, but she just thought church was a show. So she never would take me to church. Now, my grandfather would get up every Sunday morning and go, but she would never go. And, that was probably the closest person to me, so it kind of kept me away from church in that aspect. And what it did, it made me more analytical in the sense that when I heard the teachings of the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he teaches from the scripture. So when you hear him teach, it's not the preacher, it's more so of a teacher. So I was attracted to the teaching aspect in which you can learn religion, you can learn God, you can learn spirituality instead of being preached to. And I think, when we get to, because with our people, you go to a church and sometimes it's like a stage production. You know what I mean? You got to have the music, you got to have the clapping, you got to have the band, all of this has to be working, praise dances and all this to get us emotionally charged so that we can take the message. But sometimes the emotional charge overrides the message, and you leave out the church feeling good for that hour afterwards, but then that fades, and then you go right back to your average life. The same routine every day, the same 8 hours every day, the same issues that are overcoming you every day. So I think with the minister and the teachers of the nation, they were more analytical, and they, it had a process to it, dear brother. Like you say, from goons to gods. Well, if you start off as a goon, you have to have a goal. What's my goal? How do I get out of that? In the nation, the teaching said that, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, every time I look at a black man or black woman, I'm looking at God. And then they would raise up scriptures from the Bible where Jesus would say, you won't be able to say, here it is or there it is, for the kingdom of God is within. Or they would raise up scriptures that says, ye are all God's children of the Most High God. Or they would raise up scriptures, know ye not that ye are the temple of God and the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? Those are all biblical scriptures. But they're not scriptures that we're taught about often in the church. So we're left in almost a spooky process where we're waiting on a Jesus to return to save us. Or we're looking at just prayer alone and thinking that, okay, I can pray and it'll change my condition, but make it process with, time prayer with works and effort, and ability that we all have. So I think with the teachings of the Nation of Islam, it showed me a process, and I was really inspired by process. Malcolm X was a process. He started reading. He talks about how he started reading. It enlightened him. It gave him new perspective, new understanding, so that when he came home from prison, he had a new view on everything. And the more he studied, the more he learned, the more he grew, and the more he was able to communicate on all levels, where he would talk to the dope addict on the corner in Harlem, but then at the same time, he's the same man who would go give a speech to Harvard University students. So I recognize the value of knowledge and the value of spirit and the value of faith all being combined, instead of just saying you got to have faith. Well, you got to have knowledge along with faith, says the minister. You got to have some understanding there. You got to have some work involved. And I think that's all part of the process of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and that's what turned me on about it. Now, I have to say that doesn't mean that any other religion is wrong. It's just that we have to understand process. Even in the Christian church, you'll come across churches where nowadays process is being taught. You know what I mean? So it's about each individual finding their place, finding what's comfortable for them. and taking that and then not comparing it to another. I can't say to you, well, the Nation of Islam and the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the only way.
Right.
Because you got a whole earth, 196,940,000 square miles, and it's filled with human beings who have had different experiences and been taught different things. And if I say this is the only way, or I say Jesus is the only way to a person who never heard of Jesus, that's
well, let me ask you this.
unfair.
Matter of fact, there was a question in the chat room, too. Actually, they wanted to know what role does Jesus play in the Nation of Islam, and how does it differ from Christianity?
Okay, in the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, first of all, the Quran, and a lot of people don't know this, the Holy Quran, which is the book that all Muslims study from, it lifts Jesus up as the Messiah. You know, Jesus is mentioned in the Holy Quran. Mary is mentioned in the Holy Quran. You know, so when people say that Muslims don't believe in Jesus, that's just an outright lie. And any Christian can look in the Holy Quran and see the place of high esteem that Jesus holds amongst Muslims. And if a Muslim says that they don't believe in Jesus, then they're not a Muslim, because you can't be a Muslim and not believe in Jesus and in all of the prophets of God. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that Jesus is the supreme example. Well, what does that mean? It means that Jesus is the one in the Scripture that shows us, you know, you go to the Old Testament and you saw those of the Old Testament, they would sacrifice animals and sacrifice things on the altar to God. But Jesus comes and he says the sacrifice of animals and, you know, and stones and metals, you know, that's all of the things of the past. Right now, you have to sacrifice yourself to God, meaning you have to give yourself over to him and allow him to live in you. That's what you're talking about when you say goons to God, where you allow God to come in and then you begin to talk like God, walk like God, build like God, develop like God, think like God. Not that you're worthy to be worshipped, because it's only one God worthy to be worshipped, but that God has shared himself with each and every one of us. So we all have God potential in the same way that Jesus had God potential. So when we, you know, in the church, when he's put out on a cloud somewhere we can't reach him, and we say, well, Jesus has the answers, and Jesus is this, and Jesus is that, he does. But he also said in the scriptures of the Bible, the works that I do, ye shall also do. And even greater works than these shall ye do. You know, and that's based upon your belief and your understanding of him, because he let God take root in him. So when you saw him, you saw God. But that's the same thing that's open to everyone that's on this line, everyone that's listening in, everyone you know have the potential to access God and make him real in their life, not just by praying and being nice people, but actually open yourself up to allow him to grow in you, so that I see you, I see God. Self-improvement is the basis for community development. So if each of us can start doing that, then we improve ourselves, which improves the community.
I feel you on that, man. I do, and I'm not really a religious person. You know, to say that I can't even say not really. I'm just not. You know,
right.
But I respect the effort of especially like the Nation. I'm more akin to religions that you got to put in some work. You just can't show up one day for a couple hours and it's like a spiritual gas station and you full for the next week. You know,
right.
you got to actually do some stuff in between Sunday and Sunday to prove your worth in that religion. So in that
yes,
aspect,
sir, that's absolutely right, and that's where we've been deceived, the whole world, in the area of religion. You know, where you think it's just a gas fill up, when it's actually a lifestyle and it's something that you have to do. But, I mean, if you call him Jehovah, if this one calls him Allah, if this one says God, if the Native American says grandfather, whatever the name, if he is God, he knows it's who you're calling. He knows you're calling on him. But, you know, we've gotten to the point, says the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, where we're not as wise as winos, because winos don't care what's the label on the bottle. It could be Mad Dog 2020, Night Train. It could be Wild Irish Rose. They don't care because it's the contents that they're concerned with that's going to get them to where they want to go. So we got to look at the content of the religion and then take the aspects that we can apply to ourselves. You know, and that's why most people, well, not most people, but a lot of people today say I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, which is good, because you recognize that, man, I have eyes to see, ears to hear. You know, I got a heart that pumps blood throughout my body. You know, I have legs to take me where I want to go, hands to bring in fruition whatever I think. You know, I'm made too perfectly for it not to be a divine plan. It just couldn't happen, you know. So I recognize it's something greater. But maybe right now I just don't know what it is. But that doesn't mean I can't start putting my understanding together, piecing it together, because, you know, based upon all the lies we've been taught, it's a difficult thing, and it's confusing. But, you know you got something special in you, brother. Everybody on the line know that it's something special in them, and that's the God in you. And all we got to do is dig deep, and work to bring it out. The work is always on self. You know what I'm saying? Because if you improve yourself, you improve the community. But sometimes we think that we are these great teachers and great leaders, and we want to go out and improve the community before we work on ourselves. You know, but, you know, in Egypt, know thyself. It's a very valuable tool, a very valuable teaching that applies across the board regardless of religion or religious preference.
Oh, no, I definitely agree with that. And I got a caller in the queue, and 1574, I'm going to get to you in just a second. I know you've been waiting a minute. I definitely appreciate that. And I got to say, man, Detroit is showing up and showing out, because all I'm seeing is 313 and 248.
313, we got to make it happen, man. If you ain't going to get your own support team, man, you might as well go home.
Salute to the D, you know, showing up and showing out. Man, just totally made me forget my next question. Oh, so a couple of this was sometime last year. It's a king on one of my friends. Really strong believer, Nation of Islam, and one of his friends. You know, we got to talking about the presence of the nation in Detroit specifically.
Yeah.
And I was telling him, you know, like I grew up on 7 Mile in Southfield, you know, in the 80s and 90s. And there was not a presence of the nation when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And and when I was researching you, I'm like, wow, I totally missed the boat on this, because they're doing a lot of work now.
Yes, sir.
How did y'all make that transition of connection?
Well, I mean, I think
and
that,
you know what? Before you answer that, because I don't want people to think that was disrespectful. Because if I remember correctly, y'all was the first mosque, so it's not a transition per se. But you know, there's ebbs and flows and everything. And at some point, it went down a little bit, and now it seems to be like clicking on all cylinders. What happened?
Well, I think social media has something to do with that. You know, so I can put on social media everything that I do. You know what I mean? Everything that we're doing. So, you know, people, you know, because people will say, well, where they at? Where are they? Where are they? As though we have capes or something, and you got to be able to recognize us everywhere we are. The reality is that the Nation of Islam never left. Actually, in Detroit, I can say right now in the city of Detroit, we have over 32 businesses that are owned by individual members of the Nation of Islam. Right now in Detroit, over 100 homes, houses, property is owned by members of the Nation of Islam. In Detroit, we have our weekly men's program, our weekly women's program. In Detroit, we have our Sunday services, our Wednesday night study groups. We have brothers who go out in the community every Saturday morning. They call it Savior Saturdays. You know, so you know, we're working on all cylinders. Some of the politicians that you see, we helped get into office. Those who we felt deserved our backing. We have believers in the Nation of Islam who are now in good political positions. I mean, you know, we've been working on a lot of different things, and sometimes those things can't be seen because, you know, the minister we're not raised like that. We're not taught like that. We're not taught to, if it's a protest, for instance.
Right.
Well, we don't show up initially because we do want to know or have a knowledge of what the protest is about. We don't want to come across as ambulance chasers, so anytime something happens, we're sitting there on the news. That's not our way. Oftentimes, if a victim, we see a family or something who has been victimized, we'll call them personally and see if it's any way that we can help them instead of being the one who's on the news with the microphone in front of us, trying to, say a few words, but at the same time drum up our own support and get the drums beating for ourselves. Besides that, we have a radio show that we have that comes on every week. We have a TV show, the Journal of Truth, that comes on 2 times a week. So, we're here, and we're trying to fit in and help in the city of Detroit wherever we can.
That's phenomenal. And hold on, let me get to this caller right quick because they have been waiting a half an hour. So salute to you, 1574. We're going to bring you in right now. What's good, fam?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
What's going on, Brother Troy? This is your brother Clyde calling, man. I'm really enjoying your words, and your host is doing a phenomenal job. Like you said earlier, he's nowhere near boring. It sounds like he has a team with him. But as I'm listening, brother, to your testimony, as I'm listening to your life story, and I know that's just a short part of it, but you can do so much just based on you are coming from, let's say, that Goonie man to a God man. And I'm blessed to be able to bear witness with you every week by being one of your assistant ministers. And I'm electrified every time I hear your story, and I think you do need to write a book on that, because I believe it's one thing to go through what you went through and then just stop. You can stop selling drugs. You can stop shooting people. You can stop robbing people. You can stop doing all the wrong things. But you took it to another level when you start doing good to others. And I think what you're doing today and what you're doing on a daily basis, that's really too many to number. You are doing good to others, which supersedes just not being a low-down robber, thief, deceiver. So I think, Brother Troy, I feel blessed. I feel honored. I listen to you intensely all the time, whether you know it or not. I'm listening and studying. And every time I listen and study, I find more and more and more and more value in what you have to say. All I have to say is keep doing what you're doing. You're doing an excellent job. You're inspiring people. I've been into the nation over 23 years. And I'd be inspired every time I hear you deliver the teachings, the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's all I have to say, brother. I feel good just by listening to you on this show.
Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. I'll give you a raise for saying all those positive things, Brother Clyde.
Oh, it's real, brother. It's real.
I appreciate those words, man. But, this is the work. And I'm going to be speaking about it this Sunday at the mosque because I was flown into Virginia last weekend. And I was able to follow in the footsteps, walk step by step in the footsteps of our brother Nat Turner, and to see the dedication and the sacrifice that he had to make and those with him had to make, knowing what the consequences would be. It really changed my life and it changed my perspective. Because it told me that we can never do enough or give enough, man. If we want to see our people in a better condition, if we want to see our people raised up, if we want to see our people off the ground, if we want to see them out of the prisons, if we want to see them with the right mind, we can't do too much. It's not too much we can do. You know what I mean? It's like you're not doing enough every day. When you go to sleep, you know, you're tired at the end of the day, but it's not enough when you consider all the sacrifices that have been made to see our people in a better condition. So I thank you for your words, but I still want to do more, man, and I think we all can do more.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, so
and
that's
you know
something
what?
that I just...
And I'm sorry, bro. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I was just agreeing with my brother, and he absolutely right. There's much more to be done. You know, one of my cliches, I say anything less than more is unacceptable, and that starts with myself. And when you have a good person that's leading you along the way, you know, I look at our student, Troy, Minister Troy, as a good coach, a good football coach, who's always trying to get more out of you than what you think you have to offer. And then when you have somebody that do that, it makes you grow more and more in faith, not only in what you're trying to do, but in yourself. Because, say, for instance, you think you can only do 15, 25 push-ups. He's asking for 50. So it is with the work and the teachings. He's asking for more. So if I start to increase and listen, you know, I can only improve myself, which he talked about. Self-improvement is the basis for community development. And that's what he's digging at us, asking us to do. And I think if we take those words and apply them, we can't help but be successful.
And, you know, I was getting ready to ask you how you deal. That's a lot of power. You know, just the profound effect that you clearly have on people. And it's not just the brother on the other line, you know. Like I say, when I'm doing my research, I'm seeing what people are saying, you know. And you have a profound, just effect, a presence about you, as people say. But then when you listen to you, the humility is palpable. So you know, it's like some people, you know, when you see them get to a certain position, you're like, I don't know, man, because I don't know how he gonna turn out. You know, like he's cool when he ain't got no power, but I'm seeing some things. You know, and just in briefly speaking with you,
that's when
you don't get that
go
from you
the
at
book.
all.
So that's when he goes and writes the book because he thinks he's arrived. You know what I'm saying? And you look at the scriptures, for instance, and you know, when they were walking with Jesus, you didn't have Paul and Peter and John selling mixtapes on the side or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, this is the guy right here. You know what I mean? Point towards him. And for me, that is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He absolutely helped me with his words, change my life and understand things and see things better. So right now, I believe it's my job to help aid him in what he's doing. I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel or that, you know, I know more than what he knows at this time. I think that, you know, he's the one. So I can listen to him. I can take guidance from him. And I can pass that on to others, which is what I've been doing, and that's gotten me the response that I've gotten. You know what I mean? So I can honestly look at it and say it's nothing of myself, but it's what he's given me that's helping me maneuver through this thing. And I just hope to be a clean enough vessel, not a perfect vessel, but a clean enough vessel so that the way that I get it, I can pass it on to others, you know, without cut on it. You know what I mean? I don't need to put no cut on it. I need to give it to you the way I got it, give you the same medicine I got. Try to put it in your language. You know what I mean? Because the ministers never asked us to be other than who we are. I'll give you a quick story that I was told concerning the minister. And he was in a meeting he was about to meet with Suge Knight. And his security asked him before Suge entered the room, do you want us to tell him to put his cigar out? And the minister said, absolutely not, because I want him to feel like he can be himself in my presence. I don't want him to feel like he has to change in my presence, you know. And that's how the minister is. He wants you to be yourself. So if that's how he is, that's what I want you to be. I want you to be comfortable with me. I want you to be able to be yourself, because the decision to change for any of us it's our personal decision. You know what I mean? I can't change you.
Right.
You can't change me. I can only give you some information, and then you take that information and you decide where you need to apply it to yourself, and then you change yourself.
And, you know, I salute the minister for that, but, man, how ignorant is Suge Knight? Like, come on, bro.
I don't know if he put it out on his own. I'm not. That's the portion of the story I was told, but he might have put it out on his own when he came in. But, you know, I mean, you let people be themselves, man, because when people start hiding around you or feeling that they got to hide something in your presence, you know, then it doesn't allow you to be honest. You know, where you go to an AA meeting and they say, well, in order to join, you got to first say, my name is Ted and I'm an alcoholic, you know,
right.
Because they want you to start off honest. So if you're smoking or drinking or, you know, whatever you do, if you can't be honest, if you feel you got to hide it off the rip, then honesty is not even present. So any step you take after that, you know, it's not really going to go anywhere. So be yourself. And then we can work with it. You know what I mean? Because when you go to a doctor, doctor has to be able to analyze what's wrong, you know?
And, caller, I definitely appreciate you calling in, man. Salute to you, King.
Salute to you,
it was a privilege
brother.
and an honor, man, talking to you. We got a couple more callers I do want to get to right quick, if y'all don't mind. So I'm not going to hang up on you or anything. I'm just going to mute you, all right, King?
Yes, sir.
All right, hold on one second. And I think we'll get to 7707 real quick. And you know what? Before that, there was a question in regards to doing things for non-Muslims. And actually, like I know in Baltimore, like 300 Gangsters has a real strong alliance with the nation there. So I know it's happening within with the nation and outside entities. So I want to let you kind of address that. But also secondary to that, I would like to know what non-religious person has inspired you the most.
Non-religious?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I don't know any non-religious, because all black people, got a sense of religion somewhere.
Well, let's say
non-religious. Can you talking about people who don't hold their religion out front?
Yeah.
Unlike a pastor or an imam or something like that.
Exactly. Maybe the plumber down the street for whatever reason. Something.
Oh, you're gonna throw Joe the plumber in there? No,
not Joe the plumber. No,
not Joe the plumber.
Not Joe. Gonna be Leroy. But just somebody, and not necessarily non-religious, but non-nation of Islam.
You could find. I'm a hip hop fan, so I love hip hop. I love the influence that it's had on the world. I wouldn't name a specific artist. Although my favorite artist probably would be Jay-Z in hip hop. But I look at the hip hop movement, from Melly Mel to Russell Simmons. Then you look at the current guys. I mean, Master P's. These young men, and it was fueled by young black men, have affected and really changed the culture of the world. And even though they don't do it in the clean way that religion would call them to do it, they've been able to put themselves in position to employ black businesses, to employ black people, to stabilize black families, to create a black economy like never before. Motown doesn't compare to what hip-hop has done, to what the Russell Simmons and the P. Diddy's and the Master P's and the J. Prince's, they've had a contribution that now has shaped the entire world, man. And it's amazing that we're kind of forced to argue against it, to fight against it. Some of the new stuff I'm not a fan of, and you may not be a fan of, but when you look at the movement as a whole, it's really had a more positive effect than a negative effect. I mean, Motown music, they didn't have clothing lines coming out of that. You know,
right.
Motown music didn't have a lot of businesses, individual businesses coming out of that. Motown
right.
music didn't have the endorsement deals that these guys have today. Motown music didn't have the influence that they had today. You had one man who made hundreds of millions of dollars, but most of the artists after that ended up broke.
Yeah.
Not saying that Motown wasn't great because it touched the world in its way. But I'm saying hip-hop, I think years down the line, we'll look back on this period and see what a positive period it was as far as the growth and the business development of black people. Hip-hop helped put Barack Obama in office. You know, hip-hop, you know, is bringing attention to a lot of the issues that we're marching about and protesting about today. Hip-hop has been our underground railroad in a lot of senses. So I would say that hip-hop movement has been a very inspirational movement to me.
We got to get you some Break the Foundation, too, Minister.
What was that?
Like, we got to get you some Break the Foundation. If you're into hip-hop, Break the Foundation, you'll love it. I'm telling you.
Okay, get it to me.
I will definitely reach out and get that to you because I'm telling you, and you're gonna hit me up and you're going to be like, bruh, like, this is the business. You know,
okay.
And it's not on. It ain't on no foolishness. It's all about us and uplifting us.
Okay, get it to me immediately.
I definitely will do that.
We'll get it on my show on Sunday.
Oh, that'd be dope. And let's get to a couple more callers. We'll stop for a little station break. Break does get busy. Shout out to, and I gotta say, salute to MBK Live. If you're not aware, we on MBK Live on YouTube, and he produces our show and just puts in a lot of work. Just flawlessly. So shout out to him. Subscribe to the channel and please share the show. So we're gonna get to 7707 and then we got 4593 thereafter. So hold on one second. What's good, fam?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Brother Troy, I just said that you allowed me to have you put a tremendous impact upon my life of me being formerly incarcerated and getting out and being able to do for self, you know, have a business, be able to help the people. And, brother, continue to keep on doing what you're doing, brother, because I'm a mic soldier for Muhammad.
Yes,
and examples like you, brother, you encourage me to keep going when it's days that I don't feel like going.
Praise be to Allah, man. And I'm pretty sure with you getting out doing the things that you're doing, there's somebody watching you. And I think that's the most important thing. We got to understand, you know, especially those who have been incarcerated. Usually you the guy in the group that was the real one, you know what I mean, who said, you know, you told somebody, if you keep doing that, I'm going to do something to you. Then you end up doing it. You know, so a lot of people, you know, look at you for strength and leadership and guidance. So when you come out of a situation like that, people are watching you to see what you're going to do, you know, and looking for your leadership. So I'm sure it's people watching you, man, as you watch me, and if we keep doing what we're doing, I think it'll help change a lot of others, man. So thank you for your call and your spirit, dear brother.
All praise due to Allah, brother.
And you know what? That's interesting. I never thought of it that way. And just historically, how y'all have tapped into to brothers in prison who have demonstrated a strength of some kind, and you have been able to transform their lives to bring their spirit up to their will, if that makes any sense.
Well, I think it's like I was saying, it's the process that we're being taught in the teaching. It's a process. And when you get to sit down, that's the unfortunate part about our community. If everybody is operating in, you know, panic mode, you don't have time to sit down. If the sister, she got to go to work, take care of her children all by herself, she got to do all this on her own, she doesn't have time for creative thinking. When she actually has a mind where she can start a business, she can do so many different things, but she's bogged down by the responsibility of caring for children, going to work. She gets home from work, she's tired. The only enjoyment she gets out of the week is to watch Power on Sundays or watch this show or, you know, whatever the new show is, Insecure or whatever that is. That's where she gets her release at. The brother, he's out there hustling the street trying to get money, chasing it to the point where he doesn't even take the time to sit down and reflect. So unfortunately, prison is the only time or sometimes the only opportunity that we get to sit back and analyze and look at it and study. Look at our steps, how every step that we made got us to where we are right now. That's big when you start looking at yourself.
And we have a tendency as a people to throw our people away.
I got to be here. What do I want? How do I want it? What should my life look like? What do I want it to look like? Because I can't keep being mediocre. I can't sit in this cell like a caged animal. But, we have those who are incarcerated physically, then we have those incarcerated on the outside who live like they're incarcerated. So they only go on the west side of Detroit, the east side of Detroit. They might just travel throughout their neighborhood. So the minister says that the ghetto is like a playpen. You got your party store on the corner because, you got a playpen. You put everything the child wants inside the playpen. So we got a party store on the corner, a club down the street, grocery store over here. Yeah. And that's as far as we need to go. So most people in Detroit haven't even gone outside of Detroit. I met somebody in Inkster. They call Detroit the city. I mean, it's like 5 minutes away. You know what I mean? But it speaks towards the mentality. And we got to expand the mentality, and we got to try to create avenues so that our young people, our people in general, can sit down and think, man, have that time where they can get away to a resort. I don't know if we got to make Negro Island or something where our people can come sit down and analyze for a week. It don't cost that much. You know what I mean? We got to make a resort that don't cost that much where they could come sit down, relax for a weekend, be served up, and then go back to the hustle and bustle.
That's not a bad idea.
Right now, we don't have anywhere we can go. Just not stress-filled.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I come across some money, I might have to look into doing that.
There you go. Make it for us, man. King and Queen Island.
But see, you
only
gave
card,
the name
we
and
take
everything.
bridge cards. We take bridge cards. We take bottles. Whatever you got to give to get here, to let you come relax so you get your mind right.
Oh, and my esteemed co-host Afi is on the line now. What's up, Queen?
Hey, peace, gentlemen. How are you this afternoon?
We are doing well, especially now that you're on the line.
I apologize. I'm usually very prompt. I'm usually always prompt and in attendance, but we got some flash flooding and whatnot going on in Houston, and my trip home didn't go as it usually does. I had to do a lot of detours. But I'm here.
But you made it.
Yep,
exactly.
in one piece.
And that's a good thing.
Yes. So thank you.
That's a great thing.
Minister Muhammad, for coming on. I greatly appreciate it.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm honored that anybody would even invite me to talk on any show. So I'm honored, blessed, and I hope that we can get something across to somebody to make their day and their life a little bit better.
Right.
Absolutely. All right, and Afi, I'm gonna have to play some brick now. Since he kind of called me to the carpet and said send him something, I'm gonna have to play something at some point before we let him go. I inboxed you a joint too.
It gotta be powerful, man.
Oh, trust and believe, man. I don't co-sign nobody that's whack.
Okay. We're looking for Michael, not Tito. So I want to hear the star performance.
He is definitely not Tito. That's for sure.
I got you, bro. I got you. Okay. Let's see. Y'all want to get to another caller right quick? We got 4593 in the queue.
Yes. I missed a lot, so I'm ready for the dialogue.
All right, hold on one second.
Okay.
What's good, fam?
Hi, peace and blessings. How are you this evening?
Peace
Doing
and
great.
welcome, sister.
Okay, I'm calling because I have a question. I've noticed that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been traveling to colleges. He's also speaking with fraternities. He has an influence on the hip-hop music, meeting with different. How does the nation uplift the youth when it comes down to showing that they are the future? How do they uplift the youth, considering that a lot of our society is throwing our youth away because of all the black-on-black crime and the different things that's going on?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your question and the spirit of your question. You know, the minister is 85 years old, and, you know, I just saw a picture of him with Manny Fresh. I just saw a picture of him with, you know, this rapper and that rapper, and, you know, a lot of people don't know, but many of our hip-hop artists, you know, they go and they sit with the minister, you know, and, you know, I think he comes across to them as a father with guidance. I think because he says it's all about the youth. And I think in the Nation of Islam, I think our greatest benefit is that when we look at our people, old or young, you know, we speak to the God that's in them. You know, so you say, you know, you don't ignore a person because they're 15 or 14. That young man or young woman has the potential to reflect God. And you treat them with the respect that you would treat God. You know, so every time you go in prayer, for instance, you know, sometimes we pray and we bow our heads and we talk in such a soft tone, a nice tone. Dear God, thank you for everything that you've given me. You know, the minister tells us that that's how we should approach one another, with the same reverence, the same respect, the same honor. Because when you're looking at a black man, a black woman, you're looking at God. So that doesn't exclude young people. So our benefit comes in listening to young people sincerely, not just to act like we're listening to them. Mm-hmm. But when we sit down, I remember me and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we were at a program honoring John Conyers. And before the minister, who was the keynote speaker, before the minister spoke, maybe about 9 people came up before him. Mm-hmm. And a few of the presentations were presentations of little children, you know. And you would see some people, and you've been to church and you've been to different programs where, you know, when the person you're not there to hear is up, you might be talking in between and, you know, right. You're not really paying attention. But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan paid 100% attention to everyone who came up there before him. I was sitting right next to him. He wouldn't talk while they were talking. You know, once their performance was over, he would say a few words, but then when they came back on, he would be right back engaged, showing that he was really sincerely listening. And he said to me that he was listening for God. And he was listening for God in the older and the younger. So we can't just give a false ear to our young people. You know, go to a youth rally and then I say, yeah, I'm with the youth. You know, clown status. You know what I'm saying? But you got to really listen to our young people in the vein that you're respecting them, because they have something to say, they have something to give, they have something to offer, they have a different view from you because they come from a different time. So as members of the Nation of Islam, and as all people, because members of the Nation of Islam, we're still human beings. You know, we just up out the grave. We Negroes sometimes. We fall, get back up. You know what I mean? We got the same issues. But I would say to the caller that our strength comes in listening, you know. And we just had a program through Goodwill Industries, Flip the Script, where we brought our young people to a church, and we didn't let any of the known leaders talk. We wanted the young people to talk. and the leaders to listen. So we put a microphone up. We let young people come up, take the mic, say what they were going through, what they were faced with, and then it was up to the leaders at the end to respond, not with speeches, but to say, hey, I can help you here. Here's my number. Hey, I can help you over here. Here's my number. Okay, I got a house for you. I got a job for you. Here's my number. So I think the minister's example is to listen to our young people sincerely. And I think that's the best way we can help them if they're in colleges, if they're in high schools, if they're in elementary school. If you're a parent, listen before condemning based upon what you used to do in your past. Listen, and then you can better respond.